Hello and welcome to a new episode of On My Bookshelf, where in this video I'm going to talk about the latest book to hit my bookshelf, Masters of Landscape Photography. Okay, here we have it, Masters of Landscape Photography. It's a hardback book, about 175 pages long, and it features 16 of the world's best landscape photographers. For each photographer, they have been selected as being a master of a particular genre or style of landscape photography. So you've got people like Colin Cohen, who are master of mountains, or Art Wolf, master of conservation. So each of the photographers has selected some of their favourite images to be included in this book, along with some captions, and the technical information about how they shot that image is also contained within the book. So if you're wanting to know how they went about creating those images, that information's there for you as well. For each of the photographers, there's also a Q&A section, sort of interview style Q&A session, which allows you to find out more about the photographer and how they approach their photography. Let's take a closer look at the book. So the book starts off with a foreword from Robert Macfarlane, who's one of the country's leading writers on landscape and the environment. And then there's an introduction by Ross Hodinott, who is one of the featured photographers, but was also the consultant editor for this book. Now, Ross goes on to say some interesting things in his introduction, particularly mentions that it's pretty well impossible to master photography, but then goes on to say that the people featured in this book are certainly masters of their profession. Now, I'm going to have a look at some of my favourite images and chapters from this book. I'm not going to show you the whole book, that would be quite boring, and I think there's quite a lot of excitement in opening up this book for the first time and having a look at some of these stunning images. So I'm not going to spoil any surprises for you. But let me talk about some of my favourites. So the first photographer I'm going to talk about from the book is Art Wolf, Master of Conservation. Now, I first discovered the works of Art Wolf watching a TV series on Netflix called Tales by Light. He's one of the featured photographers, so if you do get a chance, that is definitely well worth checking out. Now, Art's opening image here is stunning. It's one of the, you open the book and you go, wow. It's shot on film, and I know that because some of the technical information there, but it's just a beautiful image to look at and to appreciate. His Q&A session is really interesting as well. He talks about how much planning and preparation goes into his images, and also he really manages to convey his passion for nature and for conservation. So as an opening chapter, it's a great one. Next up, we have Colin Pryor, Master of Mountains. Now, I can really relate to Colin's work. I'm a Scot who grew up in the Highlands, so I can often connect to some of his amazing imagery that he took of the Scottish Highlands. In this book, he's got some images from Scotland and some images he's taken in Pakistan. But more interesting than that, I think, is again in the Q&A section was learning about Colin's journey and how he first discovered photography, particularly when he picked up his first panoramic camera. He also talks about, photographers having to immerse themselves into the landscape in order for them to take better images. So I thought this is a particularly interesting Q&A. Next up, we have Daniel Corden, Master of Adventure, and Daniel probably has one of my favourite images in this book. It's of an iceberg at sunset. The light is absolutely stunning, and there are some beautiful reflections on the water. Definitely my favourite image of the book. Next up, we have Strand, Master of Intimate Landscapes. This is a genre of landscape photography that I particularly struggle with. I think you've got to have a really keen and sharp eye to be able to pick these kind of details out, of which quite clearly Hans has got in bucket loads here, because there are some great images here. Next up, we have Mark Bauer, Master of Mood. Now, I was particularly excited about this chapter because Mark is one of my favourite landscape photographers, so it was really good to see what images he had selected to put into this book. But again, also in the Q&A section, some really interesting information there. He talks about the importance for photographers to develop a personal style, and also the importance of getting to know your local area, the need to visit a location again and again so you can really get the most out of it. One of the great things about this book is it can open your eyes to different genres and styles of landscape photography. And here we've got Sandra, who's master of creativity. Now, this image here of a tree is quite something else. It's actually a blend of 10 different exposures, and she's created an image that has a beautifully artistic and painterly feel about it. It's quite stunning. And finally, we got Tom Mackay, Master of Colour. Now I've selected this image to look at because it's got the blue sky, the blue lake, the white snowy mountain, and then you've got that red boathouse, which is perfectly reflected in the lake. It's quite an inspiring image. So here we have it, Masters of Landscape Photography. I have thoroughly enjoyed reading this book. It's got a wonderful selection of inspiring images from a wide variety of different landscape photographers. So no matter if you're into landscape photography yourself or just a fan of photography, I think this book has a place on your bookshelf. Now, if you do want to pick up a copy of it, there's an Amazon link in the video description below. Well, I do hope you enjoyed this episode of On My Bookshelf. If you did, please do hit the like button and of course leave me a comment. I do try and read and reply to everyone's comments. If you want to see more video content like this, click on that subscribe button, and if you click on that bell icon, you'll receive a notification as soon as I post up a new video. But until the next one, I'll see you then.